Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel, Become the Disruptor. My name is Magda. I'm a trauma-informed therapist. And today we're going to be talking about neuroaesthetics. And that is because creativity is a huge part of healing journey, but also a huge part of growth. And the way we relate to art in general, whether that is a piece of painting or writing, whether that is music or anything else that you can consider art, the way your brain interacts with it, this is beautifully mapped by neuroaesthetics, which is one of the quite new sections of neuroscience. So what is actually happening in your brain when you see a movie or a piece of music or a piece of painting that is really hitting hard? So usually the body goes really quiet when it sees something that is truly appealing. It's almost like your nervous system is recalibrating into something special. And that is because also your brain is sending a special signals. So what is starting happening in your brain when you look at something that your, let's say, subcortical limbic processes, so the unconscious processes or unconscious parts of your brain are seeing as, almost like they recognizing itself in that particular piece of music or art, is that your brain is starting sending chemicals, a very specific chemical. So the first chemical that is being sent is endogenous cannabinoids. And they basically are the chemicals of liking, of you liking something. However, there's a big however, because the dopamine is not being released in the same way when you look at the piece of art, or for example where you go shopping, or where when you eat food, because dopamine is basically a chemical of wanting, the chemical of desire, the chemical of reaching. Dopamine is not being released when you look in that particular way when you look at the piece of art. So you have almost like this pathway in your brain when you like something without wanting it. You like something without desiring it. And this is a very particular state of your brain, and a particular state of mind, and a particular state of the nervous system, because it's almost like your nervous system can actually breathe, your nervous system can actually relax, because you're enjoying the beauty, or the resonance with something that is outside of you without wanting to possess it, without grasping onto it. And these are the chemicals. So it's nothing mystical here. It's just the chemicals in your brain are creating a specific sensations and experiences in your body and in your nervous system, that then you think, oh my God, this painting is something special. Yes, it is. But also it's because it appeals to specific parts of your brain that they are then releasing those beautiful chemicals that you enjoy so much, because your body is enjoying it. It's enjoying this feeling of liking without wanting. And this has been called by the neuroscientist Anjan Chatterjee as disinterested interest. So it's almost like creates that, like an aesthetic distance. So you're looking at something, you're appreciating the beauty of that, but without wanting to immediately merge with it and immediately to possess it. And there's also another very interesting happening in your brain during your encounter with art, is that your default mode network goes online. However, this time it goes safely, because your default, so DMN, so default mode network, is related to memory, self-reflection. So it can lead to rumination, overthinking, but in this particular case, it doesn't. So your demote mode network goes on live safely without rumination. You have those endogenous cannabinoids being released, and a dopamine in a very different way, and you have this beautiful experience of you encountering art in real time and simply just enjoying yourself and allowing your body to simply relax in the pure joy of just being here. That's like a present moment, yes? So what also art is doing, because so there will be those chemical processes obviously happening in your brain that will give you that pleasurable experience of when you go to, I don't know, certain gigs, or when you go to a cinema or art gallery. That's kind of one aspect. But the other aspect is that art also tells you something about your taste. Your taste, as in the taste of your unconscious. So basically the architecture of your unconscious, because your unconscious remembers your childhood, any traumas, but also remembers, the lineage. We don't really know what is in the unconscious. So the neuroscience doesn't really know like what is actually like happening there. There will be, a lot of things are already mapped, but still it is a big, almost like undiscovered field still. So when an art piece speaks to you, it means that it matches to some degree the architecture of your particular unconscious, with your patterns, with your traumas, with your culture, with the traditions, with the lineage. So something in that piece of art holds also a piece of you, which is so beautiful. And that's why, our taste in music or movies, they can be really bizarre. They can be really odd. We might be sometimes really liking something that majority of the people would never enjoy. However, this is almost like your unconscious is looking at itself outside of you. So it's a quite magical moment without that being, magical as if, as in something that is out of this world. It's more like it's really grounded in neuroscience. And what is also happening is that those endogenous cannabinoids, they are actually calming down your amygdala, so the part of your brain that is related to threat and fear. So it's almost like looking at art is healing in itself. It really shows you the possible richness of the experience available when you step outside of the healing, step outside of the trauma, and you just simply relate to something in a very a sensory body to piece of art way that just creates something very different. And that's why what I, for example, noticed that I would say majority of my clients, when it's almost, for me, the threshold, what I notice as a therapist, the threshold when the people start healing is that when they become more creative, when they start going to gigs, when they start enjoying themselves, and they start almost coming back to their original taste. So it's they will tell me do you know what, I had been to that gig and I didn't listen to this music for such a long time, but now it's just I thought I really want to go and I enjoyed myself. So there's a lot of moments like this that I had with my clients when it's almost their taste, their original limbic taste comes to fruition, and it just shows up in different, very unexpected ways sometimes. And this is not almost even, that the unconscious is not a shadow work. You're just basically discovering yourself, and through a piece of art, through a piece of music, through a piece of movie. So this is a very interesting process that is happening when you're looking at the piece of art. And like I said, it's very calming for the body, but it's also very exploratory for you. It really, it lights up just so many parts of your brain, and it releases, so many very interesting chemicals. And like I said, it has a special place on a healing journey, but also on a growing journey, because the more you heal, the more your creativity goes back online, and the more actually you even crave art, and you crave beauty. You crave something, and it doesn't have to be, beauty as in I would say, culturally accepted way. No, beauty, whatever that beauty means to you. So you define the beauty. Like I said, you have specific taste. The architecture of your unconscious has specific taste. So you will like things that other people don't like. You know, I for example, I love Edgar Allan Poe, and most people think that he's creepy, and I love him. I don't know, you know? So that type of thing. So it's almost like you discovering aspects of yourself through art. And you don't need shadow work. Like I said, you don't need shadow work. You don't need, you know, journaling, exploration. Just go to the gallery, you know, take a friend with you, enjoy yourself. That's healing. No, like, you know, sitting and, you know, like sitting and journaling and drinking tea all day, or, you know, doing some ayahuasca. No, that too, do it, you know, if you wish to. But there's a choice. And I think the healing industry is telling you, you gotta journal, you gotta do this. There's art, guys. There are concerts, there's music, there are movies, there's beauty everywhere. Architecture, you know, whatever rocks your boat, your particular, whatever rocks your particular unconscious processes and your particular unconscious architecture. So I trust that I was helpful. This is a slightly different video. I really wanted to introduce, and I will be making more of these videos that will be related to actually art and neuroaesthetics, because this is all part of us as humans. We are creative creatures, you know, and whether we consider it as something that we naturally do as humans, or whether that's an epiphenomenon, you know, these are the philosophical discussions that I leave to other people. However, healing happens through creativity. So I will be making more videos around that, because that is interesting for me, and I hope that's going to be also interesting for some of you. So like, share, and subscribe if you find that illuminating or helpful in any shape or form. And if you want to book a therapeutic session with me, you've got some links down below. Ciao, ciao.